मैं अपनी बात को विराम करती हूँ। बहुत धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद। धन्यवाद कविता जी। डॉक्टर अम्मी याज्ञनिक जी।
Thank you, sir. The topic is a very important one, touches everyone across the globe. And today we are taking up this topic at a time when we have made promises to the world about how we are going to curb the effects of global warming. Sir, the topic is serious effects of global warming and the need for remedial steps to tackle it. Sir, climate change has been varying across time scales for centuries. And it has started from individual to a collective effort at the activity of the human beings. We talk about global warming and we talk about climate change. At national level or international level or in academic circles, they are used interchangeably. So they can be used either global warming or climate change. But to understand what is global warming, it's a very basic thing, but I will still make a point that whatever comes from the sun by way of sunlight and touches the earth, 30% of it goes back because it is sent back by clouds, by particles, by ground surfaces, whatever, and 70% is retained by oceans, land, and air. But the 30% that goes up in the space, not only does it come back little slowly, but it stays there and it becomes a concentrated form, and that is causing global warming to the earth. So this global warming was taken very seriously, and we had United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which sets rules. And then thereafter we had the Montreal Treaty, Montreal Protocol, and the Kyoto Protocol, where all countries are parties. That is why we have conference of parties at various fora. We had it in Paris, that was COP26. We had it in Egypt, COP27, where all the countries, conference of parties come and make their statements. So the issue why this is grave, as a student of science, because the atmosphere cannot be claimed by any one country. The emissions which have been emitted maybe from the United States or from Japan or from Singapore or from India, they travel anywhere. Whatever goes in the air doesn't have a specific space, and that is why here we are negotiating all the climate change clauses at conference of parties. What a particular country should do and what a particular country should contribute in order to curb the effects of climate change or global warming, that is the crux of the whole thing, sir. Sir, due to global warming, India has faced several serious issues and problems. Larger ones are, one is the agriculture sector. 50% of our people are working in agriculture. Second is the industrial sector. Third is the cattle that is associated with agriculture sector, the belching by the cows, the methane that is produced by way of decaying corpses of animals, and thirdly, sir, mainly vehicular pollution. All these pollutions are emitting certain kind of methane, nitrous oxide, and especially chlorofluorocarbons. Sir, chlorofluorocarbons are by the industrial sector and the refrigeration sector. So these two sectors give out the most of these chlorofluorocarbons, which are known as greenhouse gases. And these greenhouse gases have a greenhouse gas effect, which is causing global warming. So we want to go back to that standard of 1.5 centigrade temperature, and that is why we are rushing towards meeting our targets. So global warming is an issue that has to be now taken very seriously, as my earlier colleagues have pointed out, that in daily life also we can contribute. We can also contribute at policy level, but the most important is that to curb this, we'll have to come with very drastic steps. And India has committed to these steps internationally on these COP27 and 26 fora. But sir, what are these gases? What do they do? Sir, when these refrigeration gases are manufactured, these are freon and refron, sir, they also spill over the land. In one of my matters, these gases had gone also to the land surface and then gone to the water level. The water contained fluorides, so the water would look very clear when you look at it. But when you drink that water with that fluoride content, it will cause problems to your body. You will age, and the cattle will be destroyed, the vegetation will be destroyed, and the cattle will have mottling of teeth and wobbling of limbs and all that. Sir, these effects slowly come to the surface, and that shows how these gases which are manufactured or the raw material that is stored in open spaces.
प्लीज पीछे बैठकर बात न करें, चर्चा हो रही है, गंभीर चर्चा हो रही है, प्लीज.
Open spaces cause this kind of global warming problems. This is here to stay. But to curb these problems of the industry, there has to be monitoring. These are air pollution matters, and it also came to my notice and also came before the Honorable Court when this matter was taken up, that the equipments to measure these pollutants which go in the air are not very effective, and we need to be modernizing them. This is one aspect, sort of greenhouse gases, causing so many problems. So the cattle and the agriculture are also a main contributor. And a third contributor is, sir, that we need to go for change of transition in energy. Transition in energy means we are talking about going from coal to renewable energy. We are thinking of a new kind of energy which is got from solar power, or we are getting it from other renewables, because we have to cut down our fossil fuels. Fossil fuels is mankind indulging into the use of oil and coal, sir. Now, this fossil fuels is the main factor or the main argument when it is coming to negotiations internationally, because our country has been using fossil fuels for a very long time. We have committed to curbing down or bringing down our emissions by 2017 net zero. India is committed at the international level. Sir, how can we do it when we are having 70% of our power production based on thermal, on coal? Coal is the main issue where you get emissions. And this is not going to be scaled down unless we have cut down on our thermal power stations. So these power stations are one of the main contributors. Now, we do not have a roadway or a road map, because despite committing that we will cut down on our coal production, on our thermal production based on coal, our country has auctioned, I think, as many as more than 100 coal mines. So we have brought in private players. So on one hand, we are committing to kind of net zero emissions, but on the other hand, we have committed to the private sector coal mining. So where are we cutting down on our coal? Along with the coal-based thermal power stations, sir, we also need to look at what happens to the ash that comes out, that ash that is transported. So this is another corresponding thing along with the thermal power stations. We have not been able to cut that down. So second thing is the crop pattern. You have to change the agriculture pattern in the country. Now, most of the time, when I'm talking about climate change and climate negotiations, I think of the women who contribute in the agriculture sector. The women, they adjust to these changes in the patterns, how to bring their crop out, how to yield, to bring another crop, how to change the pattern. And these women are hardly given any lessons in global warming or climate change. Yet, they adjust themselves, they adapt themselves to the changing pattern. And that is, I think, where we should get some learning out of these women who manage most of the agriculture sector in the farmlands. So, other thing is that the industrial pattern. Here, the third commitment comes from clean energy. The clean energy requires a lot of investments in the industrial sector. Is there a roadmap to see that we bring these investments in the industrial sector in order to see that we give them clean energy and stop giving them the energy that is got from these power stations. Sir, their investment, if we look at the budget, because today I'm not talking on the finance part or the budget commitments by the finance ministry of the country, I'm trying to see how do we curb the serious effects of global warming. Now, if that budget allocation is not increased for that clean energy to be given to this industrial sector, which is increasing today, let us say, because we talk about Make in India, we want to be a manufacturing hub, we want to shift from other country to our country, where is that budget to bring in this kind of a clean energy investments? That budget is declining. Sir, I do not want to give data today. Today is not the occasion to bring in all these kind of data, but we are failing there to attract investments in the clean energy sector. So the fourth point is the renewable energy sector. So we are talking about the sun, we are talking about renewable energy from other water sources, but we are unable to see that we have our own solar manufacturing, solar panel manufacturing. Sir, 80% of our panels are coming from China. Where do we have our solar panel manufacturing, where we can have solar roofs, where we can have these solar panels on the roofs? Sir, we also have, India went for a rooftop policy, solar rooftop policy. And I find that solar rooftop policy has failed somewhere, in some places very miserably. The Honorable Minister of Environment Forests is here, and I would like to bring to his notice, sir, there needs to be a relook into this policy of the solar rooftop policy, and also see that unless and until we manufacture solar panels domestically, I think this solar scheme will not be effective. Also, there's a need to look at the wind energy, sir, because the coastlines, when somebody is traveling along the coastlines of either Gujarat or the south of India, you find number of wind energy power windmills. But somewhere, I think because of some electrical power grid issues, sir, this is also another factor which is coming to my mind when I see all the statistical data. Unless and until these things are not improved, sir, the shift to renewable energy, to solar power, despite making laudable ambitions or setting targeted goals, we will not be able to achieve these net zero targets. Sir, the other important aspect is that when we talk about clean energy, renewable energy, we are also talking about green buildings. Sir, green buildings are a new concept. The green buildings are totally energy efficient buildings. Sir, I would request the Honorable Environment Minister to see that these green buildings are a very, very wonderful idea, but do we have those select, specific, skilled architects, designers who would look into this novice concept of green buildings, energy efficient buildings? Do we have that kind of education department where we can train them to see that we have these green buildings? Sir, it is very easy to speak about all these subjects. They look very good, but unless and until we have that wherewithal, we cannot meet those targets, sir. 2070 is a long time. We may reach there. But if we do not reach there, where have we failed is the question, sir. So, sir, finally coming to the point that when we talk about negotiations or we talk about COP26, COP27, there will be another COP28. But industrialized world, which has emitted emissions for so many centuries now, because they were industrialized first, we came later on the industrial scene. So do we pay right now, or do we continue with our fossil fuels by seeing that we phase them out, we control the use of these fossil fuels, but how do we do it is going to be the burning question, sir, when we talk about this. Sir, India has promised a few important points at COP27 about global warming, and at the negotiations that we will definitely go to net zero. We'll indulge into clean energy mechanism. We will switch to renewable energy by way of transition, and this all will require a lot of investments. Sir, making promises is very easy, but to fulfill them and to look at the budgets which have fallen from almost some halfway mark, we are unable to do that. The last point, sir, we need a forest cover. We had the National Forest Act by a couple of decades back. The target was to bring it up to about 27%, 31%. But we have not even reached the halfway mark. I know the Honorable Environment Minister will definitely not agree with me, but the data that is shown also covers tea gardens. When we show the forest cover, we show the trees on the roads. That is not the forest cover, sir. The forest cover has to be 31%. You cannot allow deforestation and have construction sites. You cannot have construction at the cost of urbanization, at the cost of a forest cover. So, sir, these acts need to be implemented very strictly. Now, if we put all this together, sir, whether it's a renewable energy, whether you take transition to energy, pure energy, or you take net zero, or you take agriculture crop patterns, because rice paddy fields, another kind of a crop, and that gives out methane, and you also take the shift to renewable energy. Sir, all this requires a holistic approach. You need to bring all these policies together. Unless and until we do not bring the coordinated effort to bring all these agencies together, to have an approach to see that we bring down to zero, net zero, this will not fructify, sir. And the last and very important point, I've always been harping on waste management, sir. Today, we all are flying all the times by air. And if anyone is looking at the tickets, they might see that what are the carbon emissions that are mentioned on the tickets. So the developed world has already gone on that level. The ticket mentions carbon emissions. So that is where we have reached. And here, we are unable to see that the waste management is done efficiently. Sir, if you see by traveling on the road, we'll see solar roofs everywhere. And on the other hand, if you see, then there are dungs and whole heaps of garbage which are not cleared. Sir, they somehow, somewhere contribute to bringing out these emissions which are not required. So, sir, these two aspects also, I think, would be a nail on the whole, the number of reasons I've given. And these reasons I need to take together in order to see that we curb the global warming that is affecting all of us. It is the duty of all the countries. But we have a little more duty because
speaker is there.
We have committed certain commitments, and we need to work towards it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Amee, Yajnik ji. The message from Lok Sabha Secretary General.
Sir, with your kind permission, I rise to report that the Lok Sabha at its sitting held on 15th December 2022 adopted a motion recommending to the Rajya Sabha that Rajya Sabha do agree to elect one member from amongst the members of the Rajya Sabha to associate with the Committee on Welfare of Other Backward Classes for the unexpired portion of the term of the committee, Vice Shri Vishambar Prasad Nishad, retired from Rajya Sabha, and do communicate to the Lok Sabha the name of the member so elected to the committee.
Thank you. Honorable